Hello and welcome back to another summary video of yet another live letter. This was live letter 69 with Yoshi P and Foxclon talking about 6.1, and 6.1 is the main focus of this, the first of two live letters that will be coming out. The next one they don't give a date for, in the next weeks or so probably, as they're aiming for a 6.1 release sometime mid-April. So they do say this live letter had no in-game footage, but lots of details and clarifications. But the next live letter after this, so number 70, will actually have in-game footage and all of the usual bits that we get excited for. So specifically, 6.1's title has been revealed as Newfound Adventure. That's the patch title. The artwork is designed here, they say, to show that we're back to just being an adventurer on a brand new storyline, kind of similar to Bilbo Baggins then setting out on a brand new adventure. This is scheduled then, as we said, for a release in mid-April, and apparently everything leading up to 6.0 was the Hydaelyn and Zodiark arc, and Yoshi P says we're starting something new, but of course, in some form it will be a continuation, end quote. They show a few screenshots of this storyline then, and we do see Tataru. Yoshi P says, I hope we don't faint after drinking that tea, obviously referencing the last time we had that. Also, they introduce Tataru's Grand Endeavor then, which has a scary picture of Tataru herself, sort of grinning wildly at you. This new side quest series will continue later throughout all of the patches, but does actually start in 6.1. They don't give any further details at this point. They're introducing new role quests into this particular patch. This includes a brand new quest after the completion of the ones in 6.0. So once again, like in Shadowbringers, there will be a subsequent quest. It might have a reward, so we might want to actually go and do that. New beast tribes are being added in 6.15, the Arcus Adora. Then in 6.15, this is for battle classes and jobs only, so no crafting ones or gathering this time around for this intro. But of course, there will be another beast tribe added at a later date. This then requires players to complete two quest lines in Favnir, the first of which is called the Stepchild and What's in a Parent. If you've done those particular quests, and done the quest in Favnir, then you'll probably have this unlocked on the actual patch day, which is, of course, I remind you, 6.15, not 6.1. So it's a couple of weeks or maybe a week after the launch of 6.1. There will be, a name change coming to Beast Tribes. They're going to change these to tribal quests from 6.2 because of various reasons in the game. Mostly due to the fact that it doesn't really make sense to call them beast tribes anymore after the realizations and revelations of the 6.0 series, with the untempering of a lot of those tribes in particular. But they are not changing the old ones. Those will still be called beast tribes, but it's more of like a social reason more than anything. So in 6.15, we get Hildebrand's adventures. There is a screenshot here that shows him sort of head first, legs in the air, stuck in what appears to be a load of leaves in Lakeland in the first. So that'll be quite interesting to see what Hildebrand gets up to in 6.15. Yoshi P says, I wonder what kind of incidents and events he'll be involved in this time, and how much the dev team let their humor out during cutscenes. Yoshi P also says, Hildebrand cutscenes are very heavy on our budget. End quote. And yeah, that is evident from the past, actually. 6.1x will be a quest for Omega called Beyond the Rift. Apparently, once you clear the Omega raid storyline and then play through the Ultima Full storyline in 6.0, they felt like they wanted to add a quest that clarifies a little more on the connections made there. So that will be accessible for players who have done that. But of course, 6.1x, they're not really sure what patch that will fall into. There will be drastic improvements rather, to A Realm Reborn's MSQ. That will be talked about in a little bit. There will be obviously a new dungeon in 6.1. They say it's top secret and they're not even going to give us a name. The new trial is of course confirmed to be the Endsinger Extreme. They didn't specify a number, but they did mention that multiple totems will drop from this. And of course, Endsinger is the last fight of the actual expansion, just on the extreme difficulty, which is to be expected. There will be the Unreal Ultima weapon added, so obviously that's with your faux hollows system and all the rest of that, probably with a new mount reward and minions and things like that. And they also talk about the new Alliance raid with the first information of Myths of the Realm Part 1. They actually show a screenshot. This is quite interesting, and to me, at least in my opinion here, that kind of looks like Elpis's sky. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Yoshi P does say here in a quote, "We're going to finally begin investigating the secrets of the 12 gods in Eorzea," end quote. Very exciting stuff. New Ultimate Difficulty Raid will be added in 6.11, that's called the Dragon Songs Reprise, and they show a few pictures here we've seen before, which is obviously the top of the vault with Thordan and the Knights 12, and then they show this new picture of Nidhogg and Race Valga together as a boss fight. You'll notice then that Race Valga has what appears to be a Neurolink on him, so maybe he's being controlled by Nidhogg or someone else. Looks like you'll be fighting both at once. That's quite scary. Yoshi P says it will be different than previous Ultimate raids. Mr. Ozma designed this fight, and he said he worked on a lot of content so far, but this is what he put all of his effort into this time. That's, of course, Mr. Ozma, which is the nickname of Masaki Nakagawa, the battle content director, famed for quite a lot of content, including the Eureka stuff as well, and Baldessian Arsenal. So job adjustments will be coming in 6.1. They're not talking about them in this live letter, but they will be very minor considering there's a new Ultimate releasing, so they don't want to change too much, which is understandable. In 6.1, PvP is being updated with the new Crystalline Conflict PvP mode, which is small-scale PvP. There will be PvP action improvements and Adrenaline Rush actions changed for each job, with a new PvP reward system, which is probably that series system they talked about in previous live letters with rewards. Of course, the feast will be ended permanently, or at least for the time being, with a release of 6.1, and they want to talk more about the PvP in the next live letter. The new custom deliveries client will be Emilience Levier. Obviously, this will be added in 6.15. They show a picture of her at the Levier residence in Charlian, and of course you can dress her up, so obviously, you know, you're going to put her in a bikini instantly, aren't you? But she is dressed up quite nice there in that like butler attire. New plots of housing, of course, in the Ishgard housing system with the Imperium are being added. We've talked about that before, and they will talk about that probably more in the future. Now we talk about Adventurer Plates, which is the new profile display feature. This was previously titled Calling Cards as a tentative title. That's been rebranded to Adventurer Plates. Yoshi P says, originally I wanted to show you today what I could do with these features, but they all looked like they weren't finished. You can customize so much, but we can't show you this today. You can set your Adventurer Plates also to your gear sets. So you can have a gear set to which you assign a Glamour Plate, and additionally you can assign an Adventurer Plate. So your introduction can be different for every job, end quote. That's a very exciting feature, and I can't wait to see more of that. Then they show a slide of a new feature called the Unending Codex. This is a glossary of characters and terms used up through 6.0. This is unlocked apparently in the MSQ of 6.1 and added to your collection inventory, with new entries as the story unfolds. All the characters and terms will not be immediately available, obviously because there's a large amount of characters and terms in this game, and this will be something they add to over time in subsequent patches. So it's not a bestiary, but it is kind of like, as they say, a glossary of terms and characters, so you can look up something if you've forgotten who somebody was that you suddenly see in a quest. Data center travel will be added in 6.18, and this will be talked about more later on in this live letter towards the end of this video, and also they want to talk about it a little bit more in the next live letter with some clearing up of details as well. On miscellaneous updates then, New Game Plus for 6.0 and a portion of 6.1 will be included in 6.1. New Hrothgar hairstyles will be included in this patch for Hrothgar, and apparently they're going to keep adding more in upcoming patches. Yoshi P does state here that it only states Hrothgar in this slide, but Viera will also be getting new hairstyles as well, end quote. So that's pretty hype. Yoshi P mentions that more glamour plates and where they can be used will be changed. So apparently we're getting 5 extra plates, equaling a total of 20 glamour plates, which is obviously not ideal, but it is more, so that's good. And Yoshi says, quote, so you can change where you get to change these wherever you can get rested experience. There are a few exceptions, but not too many. We're also trying to double the Glamour Dresser from 400 slots to 800, but that will be in patch 6.2, end quote. So, yeah, 5 more plates, better places you can actually apply those. That's really good. And double the Glamour Dresser slots. I mean, 800's a really nice amount, but it's still not enough. I want too much, I'm pretty sure, at that point. They say we'll also be able to try on glamour from the cash shop in-game before you go and buy them, and this menu looks pretty good. It lets you try on stuff on your own character, which can be obviously the deciding factor. It's all very well seeing it on a website, but seeing it on your character in a try-on window is pretty useful. Yoshi says this feature is only accessible in rooms when you interact with the bed, with a new option called Dream Fitting, end quote. So that'll be interesting to see how that works, and hopefully will alleviate some of the questions that people have about gear. More miscellaneous stuff then. There will be new idle animations added for parasols. Yoshi mentions how it looks quite stiff, so I expect that you'll probably have them over the shoulder and sort of twirling them or something. It'll probably look more realistic. There will be a check mark displayed on items used to obtain minions, mounts, etc. that are already acquired. This looks really good. This also allows you to filter the market board on what you have acquired and not. And mounts also now have their own search area on the market board separate from the rest, with a mount icon, which is probably one of the nicest things they've done in a long time. I love these quality of life changes. And that's the end of part 1, which are the main details and meat and potatoes. So part 2 of the live letter opens with slides about the changes to the MSQ and more details. This is now going to be called the Duty Support System. This is a version of the Trust system, but for MSQ duties. In the future, they say Trust will refer solely to the avatar leveling system instead. Duty supports for a Realm Reborn 2.0 only will be in 6.1. This will include 4-player dungeons and trials associated with the MSQ, and these can now be completed with NPCs. Where did my brain go there? Sorry about that. The NPCs you get will be selected automatically according to your role, and duty support for 2.x and Heavensward is coming in future patches. They'll add to this as they go. This image then shows how this will look for content support. They do note dungeons not in the MSQ will not be supported. So obviously some of those are not included, so you'll still have to do those with players if you want to do them. They also mention offhand here that some of the textures in these duties are also being updated and brought in line, which is very nice. Obviously going towards their future endeavors of upgrading the graphics engine. Here then is a full list of all of the duty support coming in 6.1, which is, as you expected, MSQ related dungeons and trials only. Yoshi P does add here, in Hawk Manor, once you're done with the boss in the basement, it's normal to use the return button, but how is a Sprout supposed to know that? So we put a teleporter in there, end quote. So that's quite nice, actually. I always wondered why. I mean, there's not many dungeons you do it, but I wondered why that was even a thing. But that's nice, actually, because a lot of new people will be like, what? Return? What's that? Major revisions to Cape Westwind and later duties. Instead of an 8-player trial, Cape Westwind will be turned into a solo quest battle because they said that it could be completed with 8 players under a minute, and they didn't really want that, so it's a solo quest battle now. Castrum Mariadenum is being changed to a 4-player dungeon, and the Praetorium was an 8-player dungeon before as well, but is now being split into 3 separate duties. You start through to Gaius will be a 4-player dungeon, Ultima Weapon Battle is now a 4-player trial, and the La Habrea fight at the end of Praetorium is now a solo quest battle instead. So basically 2 dungeons and obviously a solo duty there, which is completely different than what it was before. The main story roulette was being considered to be removed, but Yoshi P says we're keeping it, but compared to other duties, they are still longer, and they accord a plan to adjust the rewards received for this roulette accordingly, so it probably won't have the same EXP gain that it currently has, but the storyline's still there, so it will have something. The MSQ, if you're wondering, is now those the 3 of those 4-player duties: Cestrum Mariadenum, Praetorium, and Porta Decumana, which is the fancy name for Ultima Weapon. Next, a more in-depth, detailed set of information for the data center travel, which obviously a lot of people have a lot of questions for. This allows players to visit worlds on different logical data centers within the same physical data center and challenge duties with players from those data centers. Those players will be seen to have the Traveler tag on them if you see one of them. There are restrictions to this, but those include the same restrictions as the world visit system, so it sounds like you'll still be able to visit market boards and all the rest of it. In addition, however, features such as free company chat, cross-world link shell chat, and PvP teams are restricted during data center travel. So regarding cross-world link shells, this chat will be unavailable so long as said cross-world link shell exists within a logical data center. It will be unavailable when visiting other logical data centers. In 6.2, however, it will be possible to join cross-world link shells on other logical data centers via data center travel. To actually initiate a data center travel, you simply select your destination data center from the character select screen with a new menu. This then allows you to wait on a timer as it moves you. Please note they say this cannot be cancelled, so bear in mind that if your destination is congested, you could actually be waiting a very long time. So probably a bit of sort of pre-warning before you actually move is that this could take a while and you'll be locked out of actually playing the game. So now there's a section on the Japanese data center expansion because there's a lot of misinformation on this and they wanted to clear it up. They are taking measures to increase the limit for simultaneous logins. These also include the logical data centers are being increased to 4 from 3. They are regrouping worlds within these Japanese data centers to each logical data center. The simultaneous logins, they say, will increase by several thousand for each world, with a total increase of over 50,000 across the entire Japanese data center. This, they say, will be implemented this July 2022. The new setup for these Japanese data centers will look like this, and the new data center they reveal is called Meteor, and here are all the servers redistributed on those data centers. After the regrouping of worlds, cross-world link shell chat may be available under certain conditions if members have moved to the Meteor data center. Members who have moved to a different logical data center will remain on the cross-world link shell's member list, but chat is only available to those within the same logical data center. Should the master of a cross-world link shell move to a different data center, ownership will be transferred to another member automatically. This chat will also be available in the destination data center after using the data center travel system. After regrouping of the worlds, players can use the homeworld transfer service within the Japanese data centers free of charge for a limited time. They actually give incentives for these. Players who own land will be reimbursed the full price of the estate, plus compensation of 3 million gil for the non-recoverable furnishings that they won't be able to take with them. Players who own an apartment will be given 500,000 gil, as well as another 500,000 gil for unrecoverable furnishings as well. So now, the last section of the live letter, Little Lady's Day then, begins on March the 14th, and they'll have a lodestone page on this on the 7th of March with full details and reward information. And also, finally, they say they're hiring French and German translators. So there you go. There's a QR code on screen if you want to apply for that. And that is literally the end of episode 69 of the Letter from a Producer Live. And hopefully that summary scratched that itch. It was a 2-hour plus live letter for that information, for most of which we already kind of knew. We got some new little tidbits of information and little hints, but I think the majority of the beans of the content and the screenshots and concept art will probably be in the second live letter, number 70, which we don't have a date for quite yet. So be sure that I will obviously do the same for that and for future videos as well. Anyway, thank you kindly for watching. Much love, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.